Hey there everyone, welcome back to Bloodborne. Previously, we cleared the Great Ease Labyrinth, which was the last of the 10 Chalice dungeons. Thank the Lord. Since we have essentially done everything at this point, we are going to return to the Nightmare of Mensis, where we are right now, and push towards the end of the story. So, we are familiar already with this first bit, which is essentially just getting towards the top of Mergo's Loft. My last time saying, are you a dog bird or a bird dog? Thankfully it's one of the last times we have to listen to the baby. So I am going to take the long way. Oh, I'm getting my butt kicked already. Oh! I'm a little bit rusty right now. It's always the way it seems to go. I'm sure that's been a noticeable trend in me. I tend to start off very rusty, even with things that are like, I'm doing them all the time type things. Oh, Mergo, please. Just give it up already. I'm here to stop your crying. Oh, they still hit hard, don't they? They coming? Oh, shoot. Wow. Oh, I'm still alive. I thought I totally died there. Oh. Alright, I'm still alive. Let's take advantage of it. Hey guys, we got some company! Oh my god. Is it just me and the pigs? Oh my god. There's a whole lot of piggies. Okay, that could have gone smoother. That also could have gotten a lot worse. Is it just me or does Mergo sound closer at certain points of the story? And if so, what's influencing that? Okay. So we return to Mergo's Loft. This is as far as we've made it before, so the next location is going to be up the elevator. However, I would like to talk a little bit about Queen Yharnam here now that we know who she is. Alright, so we now know who this is. This is Yharnam, Temerian Queen. We fought her in the Great Temerian Ehil Labyrinth at the bottom layer. So she was obviously queen of the ancient Temerian civilization, hence why we fought her in the labyrinths. And one thing, there's a few things I kind of read about that I hadn't noticed until... Well, I hadn't noticed it until somebody pointed it out, and then I went back, and I was kind of going back and thinking about it, like, oh, that's kind of cool. So, as you can see, she's wearing a white dress, and her hands are shackled together. I actually never noticed the shackles before. I never really paid much mind to them. But if you go back to the fight we had against her in the labyrinth, at the start of the fight, she's shackled and she's wearing a completely white dress, no blood on it. But as the battle ensues, she gets bloodier, and the shackles break, which is when she pulls out the dagger. So I thought that was pretty cool. I never noticed that before. Now, one other thing about her that I kind of wanted to point out here, and there's still more to go on her that we'll probably get to at the end of this, but there's a few points of connection between her and Queen Annalise of Cainhurst. So they're both considered to be undying royalty. So Queen Annalise, we've seen that firsthand because we literally tried to destroy her ourselves and nothing happened. After we revived her, after Alfred had destroyed her and turned her into Cainhurst ground beef, as I like to call it. But there's an undying connection here because she's queen of the ancient Sumerian civilization, and she's still here. Maybe not entirely. I don't know if she's entirely alive or not, but she's still connected to the world somehow. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. There's also a very clear connection to blood and blood tinge if you pay attention to them. So obviously Queen Annalise was connected to blood. She's a vile blood. But and all the Cainhurst people were blood tinge users. But she's also a blood tinge user. If you recall from our fight in the Temerian Labyrinths, she was using a dagger that kind of became a blood sword over the course of the battle. Now, I was reading about one item that I've never seen in this game before. In fact, you have to go to a root chalice for it. Don't ask me to do that because I'm done with the chalice dungeons. It's called the Ring of Betrothal. And apparently, you can find it in the root labyrinth connected to Queen Yharnam. So it's through the Great Temerian Eco Labyrinth. And it's recognized by one person in the entire game, Queen Annalise of Cainhurst. So apparently, you can propose marriage to Queen Annalise if you have the Ring of Betrothal, which really makes me want to dive back into that labyrinth, as much as I hate to say that out loud. A couple other points that were kind of interesting between the two of them that I wanted to bring up is that apparently there's a theme called Queen of the Vile Bloods that plays during the fight with Martyr Logarius, and is the same theme that played during the Yharnam Temerian Queen fight, which I thought was kind of interesting. Also, it has been pointed out that the blood dregs that you collect from other players when you kill them have a sperm-like appearance, in that the Queen of the Vile Bloods wanted to bear a child of blood, and so we have kind of a connection here between, her wanting to bear a child of blood and Queen Yharnam having her baby clearly forcibly taken from her. So it's kind of one of the questions that came up was, is Queen Yharnam the source of the Cainhurst bloodline in some way? Similar to how Maria had connections, but we're going way back in ancient civilization. Is there a connection between her and the Cainhurst bloodline? So I thought that was really interesting. So let us let's see, let's just push forward here. So we are going to be taking this to the top. Okay, so we got the Mensis scholars. If you recall, the way we got to the Nightmare of Mensis was through Mikolash's mummified corpse. And the room was completely surrounded in Mensis scholars that are dead, which is kind of screwed up because, there's clearly kids in this room. And Mikolash was the only one that was left alive in this entire place, other than, I guess, who's the only one that we've seen is Edgar, really, the intelligence person from the choir, who was clearly spying on them. So, I mean, now Mikolash is no more. We've taken him out. And I kind of wonder if Mikolash knew that he was dead already, because I don't think he did. So, anyways, we're going to press into, I think this is called the Wet Nurse's Lunarium, or something on that order, but we're going to press in and see what we find. Oh, dang, you hit hard still. Considering how high my defense is. Okay, got two of them. This can kind of shred if you're at a low level. Okay. So that was all there was to it. So, one thing that had been pointed out when I was reading up on some of the lore behind the Great Ones is that the true Great Ones, for the most part, are only found in the Nightmare realms. The only exception I can think of after that was pointed out is that the only thing I've seen in the waking world are the amygdala. They're the only Great Ones we've seen in the waking world, as far as I can remember. Also, kind of a point there when we killed Mergo's wet nurse. It said Nightmare Slain. So technically, this is the first time you're supposed to see it in the game because the Hunter's Nightmare was not a thing when this first came out. You know, that was added on. So I thought that was kind of interesting that they brought in something a little different this time. And I know the implication that I've heard out in the ether is that Nightmare Slain implies that we have slaughtered a true Great One. Now, technically, if we look at Mergo's wet nurse, which we just fought, that was not Mergo, that was the wet nurse. Mergo's wet nurse, I kind of question, some people refer to the wet nurse as a Great One, but I kind of question whether it's a kin because it was not bleeding. I mean, it wasn't even bleeding. So the Great Ones tend to bleed red. The kin bleed kind of this yellowish, whitish fluid, kind of a mix of yellow and white, I think. This one I didn't see any blood at all, and you could see it was formless. And so I question whether it was actually a Great One or a kin. Is the Nightmare Slain referring to Mergo's wet nurse or Mergo itself? Because the bassinet here is clearly empty and the baby has stopped crying. Now, in case this is just some of my own reading on this, but in case you're interested in what that means, a wet nurse is somebody who would breastfeed and care for other people's children, essentially. So if you're wondering what that term means. And so I think the idea is that Mergo's wet nurse was supposedly guarding infant Mergo, because Mergo is definitely a true Great One, so to speak, because it's supposedly born of Odin, which I'll come back to later. One other point that I thought was kind of interesting about this is that the music that was playing there probably sounds familiar. I don't know if I have it on me. I don't think I do. Oh, I do have it. So if you listen to that music, so that's the same tune that we get from the music box that we got from Gascoigne's daughter. So the one that the mother would use to keep him as himself. So we could go back to the Hunter's Dream. But we're not going to do that. We're going to actually go back down to Mergo's Loft. Mergo's Loft middle. Because technically I think this is still part of Mergo's Loft. So, Yharnam Temerian Queen has disappeared. Alright, so Mergo is thought to be the nightmare newborn of Queen Yharnam, who just disappeared, the one we fought in the labyrinth, and a great one known as Formless Odin. Now, Queen Yharnam, so she bowed to us before she disappeared, and it's been thought that might be an expression of gratitude for releasing Mergo, who was clearly taken from her. You can see the blood on her. And Odin is considered to be a formless and omnipresent great one that exists only in voice if you read the runes about him. He's also the only great one I know that's referred to specifically as male. Now, Mergo, the reason it's kind of thought that Mergo is the child of Formless Odin and Queen Yharnam is kind of obvious because she was standing out here, but Formless Odin was formless, and Mergo didn't have any body as far as we could see. There's nothing in the bassinet. So Mergo is also kind of thought to be formless and omnipresent like Odin, and we could hear Mergo's cries everywhere, which implies that Mergo was omnipresent. And the only place you can't hear Mergo's cries, as far as I'm aware, is the Hunter's Nightmare and the Hunter's Dream. So other nightmare realms that aren't, well, the Hunter's Dream is not necessarily directly connected as far as we know, and the Nightmare, Hunter's Nightmare is far below the waterline of the fishing hamlet. So maybe it just doesn't carry down that far or something. I'm not entirely sure. Now, one thing I want to point out is I kind of brought up the idea of whether Mergo's wet nurse was a great one or a kin great one. But Mergo's wet nurse, because like I said, it wasn't shedding any blood, but if you also notice, Mergo's wet nurse was also formless. So it could be that Mergo's wet nurse was the great one. I'm not entirely sure on that, whether the Nightmare Slain was Mergo's wet nurse or Mergo itself. Either way, we slayed the Nightmare. So, Nightmare Slain, I kind of look at that as Mergo was released by slaughtering Mergo's wet nurse. Like I said, I don't know which is which in that sense. Now, let's see. We have an umbilical cord. We have lots of umbilical cords. So, which one is the one? That's not the one. That's not the one. This might be the one. Nope, that's not the one. Let me see. I have the description here. No, it is the last one. Okay. That makes more sense, actually. So now keep in mind, we've been collecting these throughout the game. This is our fourth one. Third umbilical cord. A relic, a great relic, also known as the cord of the eye. Every infant great one has the precursor to the umbilical cord. Every great one loses its child, and then yearns for a surrogate. This cord granted Mensis audience with Mergo, but resulted in the stillbirth of their brains. Used to gain insight, and so they say, eyes on the inside, although no one remembers what that truly entails. So now we've talked a lot about the school of Mensis throughout all of this. Queen Yharnam, like I said, she was shackled, had red stains coming out of her. Baby was forcibly taken from her before she was able to give birth, I would assume. Mergo being taken from his mother, and I'm saying his kind of speculatively here. The father was the only great one referred to as a he. So I don't really know if Mergo is a he, she, or they in this case. Being taken may have been what led to the crying that we've been hearing throughout all of this, and may have been taken, and kind of the crying, I think, is what brought forth the Red Moon, because the first time we ever saw Queen Yharnam, the first time we ever heard Mergo, was after we killed Rom and brought the Red Moon forward. And like I said, the umbilical cord had the specific reference here to the school of Mensis, which probably implies that this cord was used by Mikolash. And I think some of the idea in the lore is that the school of Mensis was possibly trying to take Mergo to commune with the Great Ones. But clearly, if you read the cord, resulted in the stillbirth of their brains. Essentially, Mergo was too powerful and ended up killing them, so to speak. So maybe not killing them in body, but killing them in mind. Because even if they were still alive, clinically alive, I guess you might say, they wouldn't have been truly themselves anymore. Now, Formless Odin is a great one we have heard the name of because it's an early rune that we picked up. And Odin is thought to have ascended the other great ones that we come across in the story, to the point that Odin has a voice but has no physical body. Like I said, is kind of omnipresent and always referred to as Formless Odin. So Odin is kind of a timeless and probably the most powerful of the great ones, but also seems to be the most indirect because it doesn't seem like Odin interferes with much other than potentially, the whole Red Moon thing and people suddenly becoming pregnant with great ones. Now we know that the people know about Odin because, one, we have the Odin Chapel, which is where Odin was worshipped by Yharnamites, and there are Yharnamites that carry Odin runes because there's two of them, one called Odin Wraith and one called Formless Odin. So we got two Carol runes named after Odin. and they can be, I believe they are found on citizens, or the citizens use them. Now, I read a bit on the fandom about this, that Odin is thought to have derived from many different things, but one that caught my attention was Oedipism, which is self-inflicted enucleation of the eyes, or removal, basically someone removing their own eyes, since the worshippers of Odin are often blindfolded. So I thought that was kind of an interesting point. Um, and it's thought that Ariana may have been impregnated by Odin, possibly because she was a prostitute and a distant relative of Queen Annalise of Cainhurst, who had the corrupted blood. And I think one of the umbilical cords specifically states something on that order. I think the one from her. So let's see. To think it was corrupted blood that began this Eldridge liaison. So it's kind of thought that Odin may have been responsible for Ariana getting pregnant, and I may put an extension on this towards imposter Yusefka as well. So just kind of some background story that I dug up. I don't know how much of that is truly connected, but worth mentioning, I would say. So we're going to head back up to the Lunarium. All right, that is where we're going to close things out. I know that was short, but we have endings ahead of us. To recap, we essentially returned to Mergo's Loft and defeated Mergo's wet nurse at the Lunarium, supposedly releasing the Nightmare Newborn, which was our newest objective since slaying Rom way back when we brought forth the Red Moon. Mergo is thought to be the child of Queen Yharnam, who we defeated in the Temerian Ehil Labyrinth, and was standing at the base of the Lunarium along with Odin, the formless Great One that has no physical form, similar to Mergo and Mergo's wet nurse. The school of Mensis is thought to have wanted to take the third umbilical cord from Mergo in an attempt to commune with the Great Ones. However, communion resulted in the stillbirth of their brains, explaining why they were all dead and why everyone in Yharnam has been losing their minds since we broke the ritual secret. Now that the Nightmare Newborn has been slain, there is nothing left for us to do but return to the Hunter's Dream, which is where we will go next. With that being said, let us close things out. I will be continuing tonight, so if you are here live, stick around. Otherwise, thank you all for joining, and I will see you all later.